And so, beloved masters, greetings on this evening. And it is in these times, there is so much shift and change in everything that's going on in both public and private sectors. So we are speaking of the amazing power of the ethical self. The power of the virtues that we have discussed throughout this whole year. That power is a centering place. It is a place of greater awareness and understanding that opens you more and more to the inner connections with yourself. The ethical self. It functions in virtue, and there are several specific virtues that are pertinent to the ethical self. Integrity, honesty, truth, clarity, and the vision to see where the choices that you are making are going to go. And that, dearly beloved masters, does not mean you see down the road and you see the events that are occurring and you will know exactly what's going to happen. When we say see, feel. Feel into the choices, feel into the energy, and as you are aligned with yourself, you will feel the integrity. Your choice, that choice to be true to yourself, to God, to the path that you have chosen, and in all of that, to be true as you move about the affairs of your life, to be as clear and as caring as possible. When we speak about caring, it isn't just the outer consideration of others, because you can attempt to do things that will be careful for others, but as you consider from the Lord God of your being how these choices feel to you, for you, would this choice, this action, this gift feel positive as I would receive it? Is this something that I would desire that others would offer me or they would share with me? And we are absolutely clear that no two people see the import of things equally. So everyone has their own ideas of what's really important. To ask, "How may I serve you?" and be willing to hear what the person that you are speaking with has to say about their desires, and it is to be absolutely clear and willing to hear if you have made decisions and they don't necessarily agree, that it's all right. That it isn't about wounded feelings or upset emotions if their desires are different from your own. It is that feeling of interdependence as you seek within yourself to feel, to live, to express the ethics that you carry. And in the world in these times, as we look at so many billions of souls, not just millions of souls, but billions of souls. And the very process of planetary shift, of how the paradigms are changing and how that is influencing what each individual is experiencing. And the chaos that you see outwardly is really like a culmination of lifetimes of fear and anger and frustration, and I will call it personal subversion. Not just someone tells you that you're not good enough, but that you accept it and then live that way. So all of that is a bubbling cauldron of emotions that are being released, and the vast majority of people, when they are angry without a great deal of consideration. So the media is taking full advantage to underscore all of the fighting because that's considered exciting news. And yet, in many ways, it's simply fuel to the fires that are bringing up all of these unstable, misdirected emotions. And the feeling that I am absolutely right causes a lot of divisiveness because there is the tendency to act without the ethics that perhaps were taught, even if they weren't necessarily learned. And in these times, take some time to consider, feel within yourself, what do I consider ethical? And ethics, dearly beloved masters, are energetically a little bit different than what has been called morals. Morals are rules and laws set by society that say if you operate in this parameter, you're ethical, you're lawful, you're legal. This is what you should do. But ethics assess a situation, feel into it, and the choices made are, and we speak of this again and again, for the highest good of all concerned. The choices are not just for the good of self, just for the good of a certain group, but for, as best as possible, and logically, this won't work, because logic says black and white, them and us, I and they, and ethics are the energetic feeling of what feels appropriate. And it requires compassionate objectivity to be centered in yourself, and yet to be objective in your assessments. Feel it, because the thoughts of the mind can become so ensnared, so tangled in what is right and what is wrong, and the fear of not making the right choice, to the point that some beings are literally paralyzed by the uncertainty. What if I make the wrong choice? What if I do the wrong thing? What if I go the wrong direction? Should I do this or should I do that? And a part of the chaos that is arising in all of these old emotions that have been pushed down, held back, perhaps because it's not polite to erupt in front of others, or perhaps it is something that is done to save face. I won't let them know how I feel. But it is that in the midst of all of that, there is the desire, and it isn't necessarily the inner child, but it may feel very much like a child within that just wishes someone else would do this. And the mind says, do what? Anything that you find that has come to you in your life in all of this chaos, I just wish someone else would take over. I wish someone else would make the decisions. I wish someone else would just take care of me. And it has a touch of victimization, a touch of pity, but mainly it is, or feels like, a very tired child that would just like to rest. And the ethical self, it isn't just about legal affairs. It isn't just about big choices out there. The ethical self assures that it is not only well, but necessary to spend time with yourself now. Learning a sense of balance, and balance isn't exact, but to pay attention, to feel within. There are times to be active. There are times to create. There are times to rest. There are times to be with yourself. And recognizing that within helps you to be in touch, to feel within your own personal foundations of ethic. How not only I desire that others would see my life, but how this life that I am living feels within me. Am I creating a life for myself that feels comfortable? And comfort isn't just, I don't have anything to do. Comfort is that feeling of warmth, approval, a glowing sense of happiness with the choices you're making, with the life you're living, a natural sense of being aligned with yourself that isn't an outcome of having a talk with yourself about how you've got to be happy or how you must, quote unquote, put up with things, but the way that you perceive life. How's that perspective? It isn't explaining to yourself that even though you don't like it, you have to live with it. The aligned, ethical self, the power of finding your own internal spiritual guidelines, your ethic, allows you to honestly, naturally feel good about the choices that you make. To be so clear within yourself that in the chaos, in the desire to point fingers and fight, when someone decides that they must tell you how wrong you are, you are clearly connected, that you stand strong on your inner foundation, and their ideas are their ideas. No argument, no fighting, no explanations, defense, or excuses. But the power, clear recognition within yourself of your own ethical being. And it's almost as though in the changes, in the shifts of paradigms, there are new ways of being that are much more connected within. There are new standards that will emerge out of the chaos of these times. And it is feeling that flow of energy moving in you, moving through you from the divine. Blessed assurance. When there is a sense of righteousness, there is also quite frequently a sense of defensiveness about that. When you feel the clarity, the calm, the wisdom, the love of your ethical self, it is almost as though you begin to feel yourself being larger. Not necessarily that your stature is going to increase in height, but that your energy does not feel so confined in small spaces where the mind has attempted to hold you for lifetimes. So, the power of your ethical self allows you to feel the energy in a much more expanded way. To feel light. Not just illumination, but with less heaviness, less weight of old judgments, issues, conflicts, as it simply begins to fall away. I am light. It can feel like enlightenment, but it also can feel like buoyancy, not ungrounded, but more of a flow of energy, that you are not so weighed down by things that may have been with you through lifetimes, your judgment, their judgment, how things should be done, or what you're ashamed of what you've done, or even things that there is a pride in the fact that you have done these things, and yet they still feel heavy. So the power of your ethical self isn't about plowing through the resistances or knocking the obstacles out of the way, as much as it is that blending enlightenment, confidence, clarity, and joy, so that you move through the obstacles, so that you absolutely can up-spiral into deeper connection and higher level of awareness. And your personal ethic becomes much more clearly defined for you. Clearly defined. Almost as though the idea of an ethic may strike a chord. It may set up a resonance within you. It may feel almost like a memory, but the memory is so long ago that you can't quite perceive it. But the more that you seek to align with yourself, to clarify your ethic, not to think about it, it isn't about defining yourself again one more time by logic. Because, dearly beloved masters, that can take you right back into the difficulty, the heaviness, and perhaps that distorted image within, so that you still don't have a clear connection to the ethic within. So, lightening up. I am light. And it's almost as though clouds break apart and blow away, and your ability to see, feel, to hear, feel, to energetically not only define yourself, but feel the definition of your spirit within. And it the Master Book uses the word gospel armor. And armor can be very heavy because it's worn in defense. But as you really clearly begin to experience the power of your ethical self, that amazing revelation of the life you desire to live, to experience, to share, begins to feel like protection. You don't see anything physically, and yet it feels as though you are much safer than you have been. And to define your ethic also connects you with the virtue of your wisdom, so that you're not allowing the ego mind to say, now that you feel protected, now that you feel safe, you can do anything you want to do. You can absolutely go anywhere you want to go. You could. The challenge is, how anchored are your ethics in your faith? Or how anchored is your faith in your ethics? So that you feel within yourself, because protection isn't that you no longer have to pay attention or be clear or feel your surroundings. The more ethically clear you are with yourself, beloved masters, the more you experience that at-one-ment, that alignment with nature that you had in the beginning, so that you could walk on the land with an awareness of what's going on around you, to intuitively be able to recognize the energy, the scent, the feel of animals around you, the internal barometer of safety, so that you don't walk forth believing you're invincible. You trust that you are protected. And as I'm speaking about walking on the land out in nature, a lot of people are saying, I live in a city. There isn't even a park very close. So why are you talking about being in tune with nature? Because humans are a part of nature. In the city, in the country, in the valley, on the mountain, by the ocean, in the desert. Wherever you are is an environment to become familiar with, to hear, to feel, to see the subtle nuances of life in your places,